Welcome, fellow Disney Channel babes, whether you're from the nostalgic 90s
or the awkward aughts,
or you're giving Gen Z. We're glad that you're here.
I'm Gabriella.
And I'm Natalie, and this is the podcast where we rave
and sometimes roast
classic Disney Channel original movies.
You're listening to Once Upon a DCOM. Hey everyone, welcome back to Once Upon a DCOM, where Natalie and I like to talk about our favorite Disney Channel original movies. Thank you for joining us on this very special second episode. Natalie, how you doing today?
Oh, I am so freaking good because today is my favorite day.
Yes, so I'm so excited. But before that, just a little bit about us. If you don't know us yet, Natalie and I are both in the film industry in different ways. And we just decided that we wanted to go back in time and revisit some of our favorite Disney Channel original movies. We do just need to remedy something from last week's episode. We recently gained word that apparently Lizzie McGuire movie is not a Disney Channel original movie. Natalie?
Not officially.
Comment?
Not officially. Yeah, so apparently if it debuted in theaters, it doesn't count. We're ignoring that rule.
It counts in my heart.
Yeah, it was based off a Disney Channel original series, and then it later debuted on the Disney Channel as a movie. So we're, you're all with us. You all assumed it was a DCOM too. So you know what? It's all right.
Yeah. And if you're still here, then you're clearly not too mad about it. So with that being said, let's talk about our movie for today, which is High School Musical, the classic.
Yes.
This movie came out in 2006, was directed by Kenny Ortega, the legend, longtime Disney collaborator. It stars Zac Efron, Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Tisdale, Lucas Grabeel, Corbin Bleu, and Monique Coleman. And to be honest, High School Musical really kind of launched like the modern resurgence of musicals in our generation, I would say.
I totally agree.
It really started something. It was the start of something new, if you will.
Get out.
And particularly for Disney Channel, it was the start of this wave of movies that had original musical numbers. And that's what made it so unique from all the other Disney Channel original movies that were coming out, because they either had characters from TV shows or they were storylines that just didn't have musical numbers in them. Any music that was in it was actually like in the life of the character, like on the TV or something. But this was the first one that had original songs and were just sung in the middle of their everyday life like it was normal. And then that kind of became a trend that Disney followed for years to come. It was also unique because it was marketed more to an older audience of tweens, and parents could watch it, and it wasn't as cringy as some of the other movies had been. And so for all of those reasons, it became a phenomenon. It spread the nation like wildfire. It got a tour. There was a High School Musical tour for a while. There were 2 sequels, one of which was released in theaters, and there has since been a spin-off series, High School Musical, the series, and countless parodies. People go visit where it was filmed. I mean, it was a phenomenon. You lived through it, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I freaking love High School. Like, listen, this entire podcast, I'm so sorry to our new listeners. This entire episode is just going to be me talking about how much I absolutely adore this franchise. Like, it can do no wrong for me. I am in love with Zac Efron. Hi, Zac, if you're listening. But this movie was everything to me when I was little, and it is everything to me now.
It was such a great movie when it came out. It came out around the time I was going into middle school. And, my name being Gabriella, it was kind of a big deal, Like, I'd be walking through the hallways and people are like, "Hey, Gabriella, where's Troy?" I'm like, in the gym, playing basketball.
You're like,
so
I don't know, I'm still looking for him. Looking every day. Have you seen him? Let him know where I am.
Every single day of my life. It was so great. I felt very special that the main character was named after me. So good times. Well, Natalie, can you give us a recap of what the movie's about? What happens in it?
Oh, I sure can. All right, so the movie opens with Troy Bolton, who is this basketball-obsessed jock, and Gabriella Montez, a shy little bookworm, and they're meeting at a ski lodge on New Year's Eve. They're coaxed into participating in this karaoke contest where they sing together, and instantly it is obvious they have this connection. It's cute, and Zac Efron sings. Well, it's not really Zac Efron, but we don't have to talk about that. And you're like, wow, I'm in love. And then you're like, Gabriella, you can sing too. Oh, I love it. They exchange numbers, but like, to be honest, they probably assume they'll never see each other again. Cut to first day back to school after winter break, and surprise, Gabriella just transferred to the very same school that Troy goes to. Side note, it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And podcast listeners, guess where I'm from? Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when I watched that movie on Disney Channel with my sister and the screen said Albuquerque, New Mexico, we screamed. But it was filmed in Utah, so I'm a little salty about that. Anywho, so Troy and Gabriella, now at the same school, but they're in different worlds because Troy is a jock and Gabriella is a brainiac. And then they hear that the school musical is holding auditions, and they both kind of like, maybe we should do that. That sounds fun. But also, we don't want to do that. We don't sing in public. That's not who we are. The school's reigning drama duo, Sharpay and Ryan Evans, who are brother and sister, but growing up, I just thought they were like friends or maybe dating. And then I was like, wait, they have the same last name? But that's a side note, regardless.
You thought they were, you didn't know they were related?
I did, I was like 10, didn't pick up on that. Yeah, I was very confused. And it wasn't until probably the fourth or fifth watch that I was like, wait, they have the same last name. Wait a second.
It is a little odd that they play all of the romantic partners in every school play together, and they're twins.
I think that
actually
confused me. Yeah, I think that confused me a little bit. Anyway, so the two of them, always the leads in all the school productions, and they make sure that Troy and Gabriella know that they should stick to what they know. You know, the status quo. Troy and Gabriella secretly audition for the musical, and they get a callback. When their friends hear this, they're not stoked. Chad, Troy's best friend, worries that Troy's new interest in singing is going to distract him from their upcoming championship game. And then Gabriella's best friend, Taylor, is worried that she's going to be distracted from winning the science decathlon, whatever that is. So Chad and Taylor devised this plan to show how completely incompatible musical theater is to Troy and Gabriella's lives. And it works. Troy and Gabriella call the whole thing off. It's super dramatic. It's highly improbable. Why doesn't Troy see the webcam? Who's to say? But we love a third act breakup in a teenage drama movie, so we roll with it. And then Chad and Taylor kind of realize they messed up. Their friends aren't happy anymore. And so they decide to come clean so that Troy and Gabriella can reconcile. And they do. And then the basketball team and the science decathlon team up to help Troy and Gabriella be able to participate in both the callbacks and the competitions. And then we get this iconic callback song, Breaking Free, which impresses Miss Darbus and results in Troy and Gabriella getting the lead roles in the musical because, lest we all forget, this was not the actual show. It was just the callback.
Okay, my husband Nick was like, can you believe they went to these lengths for a callback?
Right, there's professional stage lighting. They're in cost. You're like, what? Why did we build a set for the callback?
Miss Darbus has already finished the winter musical before even casting it.
I'm sorry, musical.
She has completed all of the set design, all of the props. They have a camel, a moon. Everything is ready.
She's
to
on
go.
top of it.
She's like, I literally just need the leads.
Listen, she's icon level.
She's so realistic for a theater teacher. I would like to get into that. Are you?
I have one final thing to finish off the movie. The Wildcats win the basketball championship. Gabriella's team wins the decathlon. And then the school comes together in celebration, all dancing to the beautiful Kenny Ortega choreography, singing "We're All in This Together." And the credits roll. It's beautiful. And then we get a post-credit scene where Sharpay is in love with the little baker boy and his cookies. And that's
my favorite
movie that is High School Musical.
Well done. Well done, Natalie. Good. Very succinct.
Thank you. Ah, thank you. I could go on for literally ever. And I was like, no, Natalie, you got to cut it down. You got to cut it down. You got to cut it down. I could talk for hours.
I love
Mm,
that. Also, Miss Darbus and every line that she has is my favorite to quote every single day.
yes. The section where the people are auditioning and they're all singing horribly, and there's the opera singer and there's the interpretive dance, that is my favorite scene, and it like brings me to laughing tears every time I watch it. 'Cause he's like, "Oh, that
It's
was
so
very disturbing.
accurate.
Go see a counselor."
And well, that duo is such awkward drama kids too. They're so
Yes, I
perfect.
love it.
My favorite's the dancer that runs off and clearly smashes into something. Everything comes
Yes.
crashing down on him. Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
And then nobody checks
Uh,
on him.
I know, right?
Great.
Yeah. But these poor kids, I mean, she's horrible to them. She is not a nice teacher at all.
No, she really isn't, but she's funny, and so we forgive her.
I do forgive her. I have a theory that I think this is a good time to bring it out. So, Miss Darbus, I think she wanted everything at the end to happen because a note on the recap, she had changed the date of the callbacks as per request of
Mhm.
Sharpay and Ryan. They're like, we think you need to change the callback date to exactly when the basketball game and the decathlon are happening. So everything's like all at the same time.
Right.
If you hear in the background, she's like, and I don't want to hear one more thing about Troy and Gabriella, but also I think it's very beneficial for our show to change the date. Like, but why? In what world? Because she knows that these things are all happening at the same time. And she's like, I think this is a great idea. I think she wanted them to fight for it. Like, she was like, are you really into this? Because she's all concerned that Troy's going to prank her. My theory is that Miss Darbus the whole time was like, I'm going to make them work for this. Like, if they can pull it off to be here, then they get the part, you know? And she
No,
wanted
I
that to
actually
happen the whole time.
I completely agree with you. I think that she, as proven by her extreme dislike for Coach Bolton, Troy's dad, the basketball coach, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
very clear that she's like, I want them to prove that this is number one, most important. And if they're not going to prove it, they have no place in my drama department.
Agreed. Yeah. Because she has no other reason to change the callback date.
Alternatively, though, just putting devil's advocate out there, I think Miss Darbus might just like the drama.
Like, it's all still true, but just her motivation is just, I like the drama and want to see what happens.
Yeah, she's like, sure, Sharpay, we'll change it. I'd like to see what happens.
I could totally back you on that too, because that's how she is when Kelsey is like, oh, yes, I really do want to help them, you know, because Sharpay's like, oh, you really don't want to do that. And she's like, oh, yes, I really do. That's when Darbus is like, and now I will concede. Absolutely, we can do the callbacks now. Like, up until that point, she's like, nope, 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 we're not doing it. We're not doing it. I will not falter. Okay, now we can do it. Like, she wanted to see somebody like bad against Sharpay.
Yes, as someone who is married to a teacher and the sister of a teacher and the daughter of a teacher, I will say that sometimes teachers just like to mess with their students a little bit to keep their lives interesting. So that might just be what's up her sleeve.
It could be. I mean, I could back you on that. I think that makes sense. Okay, so commentary on the movie. Favorite
Mm-hmm.
moments, thoughts. How did it make you feel this time around? When is the last time you've watched this movie?
Oh, Gabby, I watched this probably a month ago, and I watched it again yesterday. I watch this movie all the time, like straight up, no shame. I watch this movie often. Yeah, no,
I
it
love
holds
that.
up. Like, I think it is ridiculously cheesy. I think that there's lots of cringy moments, but you know what? That's literally why I love it. Like, I find no fault with this movie. My favorite parts, all of them. My favorite character, all of them, except for Taylor. She annoys me. I love literally everything about this film. The choreography is sharp. It's impeccable. The part where they are like doom dancing around Troy in the basketball dream sequence, that is beautiful. It is art.
Wow, I had no idea the depth of your love for this film.
Oh,
I mean, I love
trust
it.
me.
I watch it a lot, but you really, really love it. I love that so much. This was the first time I was a little taken back by the basketball sequence. Normally, I have the same love for it. This time around, I think the last time I watched High School Musical was probably around a year ago. Like, I watch it at least once a year for fun, you know? And
Mhm.
I would say this was the first time watching Get Your Head in the Game that I was like, oh, it's the first time I'm cringing. No, am I getting old? Like, I don't want to cringe. But I did just a tiny bit during Get Your Head in the
Was
Game. But
it
it's still,
was
it's
it
great.
the was it the serious faces on the men while they popped and locked, or was it the CGI basketballs? Like, what part was
Oh,
the
I love
point
the
of no
CGI
return for you?
basketballs. No,
Okay,
the
perfect.
CGI basketballs, the movie's not complete without them. They should get a
Mhm.
credit for sure. But no, it
Oscar,
was the
yes.
serious faces while popping and locking, I think. The dance
Mhm.
moves didn't match the intensity. I think you know what it is? It's probably because I just love the scream sequence so much in the third movie and
Yes, yes, yes,
I
yes,
needed that
yes.
level of intensity from all of them. And I was
Podcast
just like,
listeners, you
oh,
cannot see the amount of extreme like joy I have in my body right now. High School Musical 3 is the best one. I will take absolutely no argument otherwise. And when we finally watch High School Musical 3, even though it is technically not actually an official DCOM because it premiered in theaters, but we will be watching it, and it is I don't even remember why I started talking about this. Oh, because you just said something about Scream. I love that freaking sequence. And I agree it is superior
it's
to Get Your Head
so
in the
good.
Game. I agree. But Get Your Head in the Game's classic.
It is classic. I have nothing against it. This was just the first time I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, guys, come on. But it's still beautiful. I love it so much. Okay. I need to take a moment to talk about flip phone cameras because
I knew you would bring this up.
you know I'm always going to bring up the technology because
Yes.
when he turns his phone to take a picture, it pained me in
Mm-hmm.
my soul. I remember
Yeah.
that. And you just never know how it's going to turn out. And there is no way his picture looked that good. That was a
Well,
professional
you know what?
photographer picture.
You know what I'm going to say? Zac Efron can't take a bad picture, Gabriella.
I bet we could find one on the internet if we wanted
No.
to.
Don't even bother looking it up. Don't ruin this man for me.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so cute. It's funny. He like takes her picture and then like flips the. I was like, why didn't she just take whatever? Anyways, flip phones. What was your first flip phone? I had a pink Razor.
I have absolutely no idea what mine was called. I got it in 7th grade, and it was the kind where you flipped it open and it had a full keyboard.
Oh wow, you are so fancy.
I
That
was
was your
super
first
cool.
phone.
Yeah. I didn't have
That
one
was like my.
till halfway, almost at the end of middle school.
That's like the equivalent of a smartphone back then. If you had a keyboard, I didn't have
I
that till
know.
I got like my NV3 many years later. Anyways,
That
I was just really
sounds
thrown off by the flip
familiar. That
phones.
could have been what I had. Who's to say? Here's what I want to talk about, Gabby. Do you think that this movie, Sans musical, is realistic? Like, was your high school actually like that? Super clicky?
No. No. Oh, okay. Well, there's some parts that are somewhat realistic and some parts that are
Mm-hmm.
not. I would say my
Tell me
high
more.
school was pretty clicky. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it was so divided that if somebody tried to cross over, there would be like songs bursting into song in the cafeteria over it. Like it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
quite that level.
Mm-hmm.
People had their
Yeah.
thing, but like we had a football dude who did a show once and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's real life Glee." But like it did not happen. It just didn't happen often, you know. But
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think people were pretty cool letting people do what they like to do. What about your
Yeah.
school?
I kind of, yeah, it was the same thing. I think like, the peer pressure from friends was definitely there. Like when you tried to break into a new friend group, like those people would be like,
Mhm.
"What are you doing?" Or your friends would be like, "What are you doing?" But I don't necessarily think that like people were angry when you were pursuing new interests. Like we had lots of crossover too. Like we were a super big like I guess athletic school. So like the big deal was football, the big deal was basketball, and the theater program and the choir were like, yeah, like they did well in competition, like state competitions and stuff, but they like didn't get the funding and like the exciting stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
people did both. Like, there were people who did both and nobody cared, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think I'll get to unrealistic things in a second. Here's a list of hyper realistic things from High School Musical: disgusting school lunches, slim pickings at
Yes.
drama auditions, baggy
Yes.
pants.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
yeah. There was a couple other things that I was like, okay. Like, oh, the drama teacher was 100% accurate. And the animosity between drama and sports, definitely
Yes.
true. And the principal always favored sports. So there was some stuff
Yes.
that I was like, yeah, this checks. This is pretty accurate to real high school. But then there
Mhm.
was some other stuff that was so inaccurate. Number one being the fact that Sharpay didn't see Gabriella in that bathroom. That's the most unrealistic thing in the entire
Yes.
movie.
Thank you. Yes. Agreed.
And that
Also,
Troy's
why
dad
are you
didn't see
letting
him when he was
Yep, yep, yep,
running
yep.
away.
Yes. And why are you allowing children, juniors, on the roof for unsupervised romantic encounters?
Well, I think the idea was that the science club has a thing up there and they like told Troy about it and he snuck up because we did have a roof that people would sneak up
Mhm.
to all the time and it was not allowed, but they would sneak up there. So my impression, because he was like, oh, thanks to science club or whatever, and nobody would find him, my impression was they're all sneaking
Mm.
up there.
So what you're saying is Troy's a bad boy. Got it. I'm not tucking that away. Got it.
I think we all knew that.
No, he's a good boy. He's such a sweetie.
No one who's in a tree, as much as Troy finds himself in a tree, can be a good boy. You know what
That's
people
a
do in
callback
trees,
to High School
Natalie?
Musical 3, everybody, just so you know.
Yeah. He's got a tree house. He climbs. Anyways. Yeah. So some other unrealistic things were how big the performance was for the callbacks. My gosh. We already touched on that, but
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. That's exactly what callbacks were like at my local theater. Was that not, you guys didn't do a full performance or no?
not even close. It's like a creepy back room with metal chairs.
I know, and they're like not even on the stage. You're like,
Yeah. With like really bad acoustics in the room you're doing the callback in.
Mhm.
Also unrealistic, the fact that these, how old would you be as a junior? 16, maybe 17?
Yeah, 16,
That
17.
these 17-year-olds could tap into the school's electrical system and do like a
Mhm.
full-on power outage and start some kind of chemical reaction from their computer? What?
Well, Gabriella's a freaky genius. You don't know what she's capable of, you know?
I suppose, but I felt like that was a stretch.
It's a little bit of a stretch. It's
She presses one button and the entire school explodes.
Listen, to round out this conversation, this movie is highly illogical. So many things are circumstantial or unrealistic, and it's still a spectacular movie that teaches young children that it's okay to branch out and it's okay to stand up to peer pressure and explore your interests. And you can be more than one thing.
Beautifully said.
Thanks. Me
Yeah.
and Kenny
Yeah,
Ortega should have drinks sometime, is all I'm saying.
you're right though. It's easy to overlook some of that stuff. You just kind of go with it. You're like, you know what? I'm having fun. I'm really enjoying it. Okay,
Yeah.
something else I wanted to talk about. Did you used to watch the pop-up edition back on Disney Channel?
Oh yeah, with all the fun facts? Totally.
Yeah, I love the pop-up edition. Every time I watch this, every time I watch the New Year's Eve scene, I remember those are potato flakes because it was in the pop-up edition.
Right, because for those of you who don't know, when it was snowing on New Year's Eve, yeah, that ain't snow. That's potato flakes.
Yep. Other fun facts are that Corbin Blue picked most of the phrases on his shirt, on his many
Mhm.
shirts throughout the movie. And it always pointed out the funny improvising that they're doing during detention. No, not detention, during homeroom when they're like, I don't know, man, it like tasted like pink jelly. I remember them like putting a little
Yes.
pop-up of like, Zac Efron improvised this line. I'm like, no.
Yeah, you can tell. Yes.
So good. So good.
All right, so
Yeah, I just wanted to
what
point
did
those
you
out.
think as a kid, and what do you think as an adult? Does it hold up?
Oh, it totally holds up. 100% it holds up. I think some of these
Mhm.
social uh like awkwardness is so palpable even today. Like, especially those two awkward emo drama kids. I was like, I know those guys. I was just with them at theater camp last week.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think it definitely holds up. There's definitely stuff, right? Like there's some gender stereotyping and the fashion does not. But the themes,
Mm.
yeah, the lessons, the idea behind it, the plot, I think it all holds up really well. What about you?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that, and we'll get to what other people thought in a second because I pulled a couple of really fun reviews. But I think that anyone who saw this as a kid and watches it as an adult is like, yeah, it holds up. I think that maybe some 11, 12, 13-year-olds who might watch this today might not want to watch the whole thing. And that kind of hurts my soul, but I can understand, right? It was a
Right.
movie for our generation, and there's going to be different movies with also a similar great message that will come out that will be for them. And that's kind of like how I have it in my brain. Like, yes, I think this movie does hold up, but maybe not for its intended audience anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Kids are older now than they used to be at the age that we were when we saw it, for sure.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, there's so much more that I notice now as an adult. I think I really relate to Miss Darbus's character, and I can empathize with her a lot more than I used to. Because,
Yeah.
when you're a kid, you're like, she's the creepy villain lady. And now I'm like, I could easily
Yeah.
be her. I really could.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I also like noticed more things like the little titles are hysterical when it's like
Yes.
it's decathlon, game day, callbacks, help, and like it
Yep.
has little commentary in the comments. Those are funny. I didn't
I
notice them as
feel
a kid.
like this is just a movie that they had so much fun making. Like, do you get that vibe
Hmm.
too? Like, it just feels like
Yes.
everyone had such a good time. Like, the editors were having fun. The costume designer clearly had fun. Like, Kenny Ortega
Right.
had a great time. And I just feel like, and I mean, even the actors, like, now in their careers will go back and say, like, we just were having fun. And I
Right.
love
And they
movies
like
where you can tell.
appreciated it. I
Yeah.
agree. And yeah, like I was watching Zac Efron get his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he mentioned Kenny Ortega and High School Musical. And I was like, oh my gosh, so sweet. And like I've heard them in interviews say, like, that's where they got their start and they're so grateful and like that they really
Mhm.
appreciate it and they had so much fun. They got to like have a really easy introduction to the film world. And that was another
Yeah.
really unique thing about this movie is they got all these unknown kids. I mean, well, Ashley Tisdale
Mhm.
wasn't unknown. But like nobody knew them. They just found them on the streets and were like, yeah, be in this movie. It was so
Right,
cool.
and I love that.
Right.
As someone who works in casting, I am always all for finding new voices.
Mm-hmm.
Do you wanna hear what, other people.
What do the people think?
Yes. So, I went over to Rotten Tomatoes, our very favorite, and the tomato meter, I wanna see if you have an idea of what the critics thought.
I feel like the critics probably gave it a decent score, like in the 60s maybe, which is decent for the critics, because
Right.
it was really good when it came out and it was this overnight phenomenon.
Yeah, you're actually on the money, 67%.
Yes.
So they clearly liked it a lot more than the Lizzie McGuire movie.
I could never understand this, but okay.
Yes. And then the audience rating was 74%, which I think is about par for what I was expecting.
What was it? 34?
74. No,
Oh,
74.
74. I was like, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, no, 74. I would say that's probably, people who loved it as a kid and as an adult, and then 26% of people who just saw it now and were like, why do you all like this?
Yeah, for sure. No, I that checks. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
So I
Good
have some
stuff.
of these quotes. First few are from reviewers, like actual critics. This person says, if a preteen in your life hasn't seen this coming of age classic, it's time to sit them down and educate them. And I was like, yes, educate the children with this movie.
They got to
Someone
watch
goes,
it. And you got to
hey,
get them to
mom.
watch it young enough so that they
Yes.
have the nostalgia about it like we did.
Right. And some kid goes, hey, mom, what was it like going to high school in the early 2000s? And you're like, sit down, watch this movie.
Except for it was actually nothing like this.
It was exactly
And the
like this. I don't know what you're
lockers.
talking about. Exactly like this.
And the lockers were not that big, and you couldn't get two. Ridiculous.
And then this is a reviewer who had a different opinion. He said, High School Musical is a simplistic and single-minded teen romp filled with Disney Channel regulars that disappears from your collective memory minutes after viewing it. Well, guess what, Felix? You were very wrong, because clearly people remember it.
I mean, he can be entitled to his
Felix.
opinion, but he's wrong about being forgetful.
Yeah, wrong. Incorrect, Felix. And guess what? I bet he probably remembers this movie very well, so proved himself wrong.
If not, he's going to be reminded of it often.
Here's a fun one that says 18 years later, and this movie still hasn't aged well, except for the outfits.
That's so accurate. They're so cute and like horrible at the same time.
Oh, they're the worst. I love it. This last one is so good. Okay. Sharpay is a slay queen baddie girl boss, gaslight gatekeep girl boss.
Wow.
Someone
That was a
clearly
real critic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, real
Professional.
critic, obviously.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
Sharpay, we didn't really talk about her a whole lot in our analysis, but she did become an icon.
She did. I love Sharpay now. I loved her then. I thought she was so much fun. I wanted to wear all of her outfits, and she's really talented.
Oh, she's incredibly talented. The fact that she didn't get the lead is honestly insulting to her.
Honestly, when they come out and he's like, a rehearsal pianist did us an arrangement, I was like, oh my gosh, like they've been doing rehearsals for weeks. Like they choreographed this entire thing. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. As a kid, I was like,
we love Sharpay.
Damn. Now I'm like, yeah, girl, wow, you deserve everything.
She knows what she wants and she goes for it. And honestly, I respect that. I respect that hustle.
She works really, really hard. And like when you see the other options, you understand why she's the way she is. Like, of course she doesn't want anybody else to get the part. Like when those are your selections.
Mm-hmm.
But she's mean. And I don't forgive her for being mean.
Correct. Her methods are incorrect, but her heart is also incorrect, I guess. But
she's really just
her outfits.
A hard worker.
She works hard. Okay, Gabby, tell me where they are now.
All right, where they are now. So we've got Zac Efron. I'm sure most of you have heard of him. He became a household name. He did all three of the High School Musical movies. His kind of like breakaway movie going from Disney into mainstream was 17 again, where he played once again the popular basketball boy. So he really branched out, went out of his comfort zone. But that was kind of his like, I'm trying something else movie, and it was wildly successful. And now he's gone on to make just tons and tons of movies. He did Greatest Showman, Neighbors,
so
Baywatch.
Good.
I don't know. So good. Let me look. His most recent film that just came out this year. So like he's still acting right now. His most recent film that just came out this year is A Family Affair. And I haven't seen it. It just came out a couple days ago. But, you know, I've heard good things. So he's still acting, not married as far as I could see, and apparently had some kind of jaw surgery or something. So he's looking just slightly different, but as handsome as ever, I must say.
You know, Zach, we would love to just go out to dinner with you and maybe hear you sing.
We just want to get to know you because you seem cool. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, he lives in Australia now. We would love to visit Australia. Zach, you want to take us out for shrimp on the Barbie?
You know what he did? That show is so good. Down to Earth. Nick and I love that show. We started drinking different kinds of water because of him.
Yes. Guys, honestly, a little breakaway here right now. If you have not seen Down to Earth with Zac Efron, it's on Netflix. I learned so much about the world and had a great time hanging out with Zach. So if that sounds up your alley, check it out.
It's a really, really good show. Yes. Okay. So that's what he's doing. And yeah, he's living in Australia. He got stuck there during the pandemic, I believe. And that's why the whole second season of that show was in Australia because he couldn't leave. Okay. Vanessa Hudgens is a brand new mom, apparently, very recently. Yeah. And she's still acting as well. She did the Princess Switch movies most recently, I think. That's like garbage. The big thing she's done.
Great garbage.
You should put that on Rotten Tomatoes.
I will. It's they're horribly written, acted, terrible movies. I love them.
Okay, Ashley Tisdale, funny enough, is also pregnant right now. I don't know if she's had the baby by now, but she's also pregnant at the same
Oh.
time, and she has another daughter. Yeah. She acted for a bit after that. She also went into a bit of a musical career, so she had a
Mm-hmm.
moment there where she was singing, but I think for the most part she's kind of mellowed out into a regular life. I think she still acts, but just less than the others. Zach's
Mm-hmm.
definitely the one who's acting the most in film and TV.
Oh yeah.
Corbin Bleu, being the theater kid he's always been, went on to
Broadway
do
baby.
Broadway. Yeah,
Broadway
he's done a ton of
baby.
shows on Broadway. Did you know he was in the Heights way back in 2010?
Yes, one of my favorite musicals. Yes, I would have killed to see him in that.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I've still never seen it actually, so I need to do that. So yeah, Corbin Bleu is on Broadway. I love him for the reason that he's into the nostalgia. He like gives fan
Mm-hmm.
service to the people who love High School Musical and all the other stuff he's done. Because like he made a cameo in High School Musical, the musical, the series, and I think then went on to like continue to have a role in the show. I didn't keep watching it after that. And like he recently posted a TikTok about Jump In, and it was like first time
Yes, I saw
jumping
that.
in 20 years or something like that. Yeah,
Yes,
so
and
he's
he still
really into
got
the
it.
nostalgia. Yeah, he's awesome. And he's like a dancer. It's hilarious because his character in the movie is like, theater is dumb. Don't do anything dramatic. And then in real life, he's a total theater kid.
Total theater kid.
Yeah. So that's what he's up to. I mean, he's done some film stuff, but mainly he's doing Broadway and a lot of just fun little projects here and there. Lucas Grabeel also had a cameo in High School Musical, the series, playing
Mm-hmm.
himself, I think, but
Yes, playing himself.
it's like a dream sequence type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he really hasn't been doing very much since then. So,
Let me
and I didn't
stop you
actually.
right there. Let me stop you right there. Where has Lucas Gabriel been? He has been on tour with Bop to the Top tour, where he has been around the country and I believe other countries as well, doing Disney Channel like rave nights, hosting them. And do you know why I know this?
What?
Because I went to one in Orlando and I met him. Well, I didn't
He was
meet
there?
him. I was in proximity to him for 3 hours and vibed and sang at the top of my lungs to all of these music with a crowd full of people who were my age, and we had the time of our lives.
This is the greatest thing I've ever heard, and I missed it.
It
Oh
was
my gosh, that's awesome.
fantastic. We had so much fun.
Okay, well, that's what he's doing. It seems like him, Monique, and Corbin are like all involved in the High School Musical, the musical series, like the resurgence of the High School Musical fan base. And they're all
Oh,
doing
yeah.
things related to that right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. Because Monique is also in the show. And then she's done a whole bunch of film and movies, and I don't know any of them. I looked at them all and I was like, I've never seen a single one of these. So, like, she's acting, but not in anything
Good
I
for
know.
her. She's making her health insurance. It's good.
Yeah, she's doing fine. But she was in the series as well. So that's where they are now. Good for them. Also, I feel like if anybody were to be listening to this podcast, it would be Corbin Bleu. And I would love to get dinner with him too.
You know, Lucas Gabriel might be listening. If
I
y'all
always
are here,
say Grabiel. It's what is it? Gabiel?
when I grew up, I called it Gabriel, but that's wrong.
That's not even kind of close.
We'll be on a first name basis.
Grabiel.
Lucas, yeah,
Lucas.
Hi,
If
how are you?
any of you,
buddy?
if any 6 of you are listening, we would love to get lunch with any of you. You all seem great. We're not singling out Zephron. We just, especially Zephron.
I literally this week I just had so much fun. Like High School Musical, all-time favorite franchise. Ask anybody who knows me, they know it's true. I live for Zac Efron. That man can do no wrong. Had a great time.
I was so excited when he was in Greatest Showman because it was his first musical project since High School Musical. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's back.
Wrong. Girl, don't forget about Hairspray.
Oh, I did forget about Hairspray.
In which he is incredible.
So good.
Yes.
He's
But it was his first musical in a long time. Yes. And Greatest Showman was incredible. Great movie.
Hairspray was closer to the High School Musical 17 again, like era, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was way back. Before we go, we need to randomly select the next DCOM we're going to be watching. Are you ready?
Yes. I'm so
Okay.
excited.
A reminder to our listeners, we are literally going to watch every DCOM that exists. Right now there are over 100. So we're randomly selecting as we go, okay? Let me get my
I'm so
random
excited.
number generator up. Okay.
So far, we
Let's
haven't had one
see.
that I haven't seen yet, but there are so many of them I haven't seen. So I'm excited for a week when it's like brand new. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's spinning.
Yay.
Okay. I'm probably going to
What
be
is
more
it?
excited than you are, but are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to be watching next week Xenon Girl of the Future.
Oh, yay! I've never seen
Get
that one, so there we go.
Wait, you've never seen it? I didn't know you'd never seen it. I
Nope.
just thought you didn't like it.
No, I've never seen it. That's why I was like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know about that one.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if you're going to love it, but you're going to like it. And you're going to think the outfits are ridiculous.
Okay, I'm so excited. So there, I got my wish. First one that
There
I
you go.
haven't seen yet.
Yes, Xenon Girl of the Future. Everybody watch it this week and come back. Join us again. We're going to talk about it.
We'll see you guys next week on Once Upon a DCOM. Bye! Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Once Upon a DCOM.
Like what you just heard? Leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at onceuponadcom.podcast and share this podcast with your Disney-loving friends.
A big thanks to Gabby for editing this whole podcast together.
Thanks, friend! And don't forget to subscribe because there's always a new episode on the way. This is Gabriella.
And Natalie.
Signing off with a sprinkle of pixie dust.
And a whole lot of nostalgia.